Welcome to Define Your Path with DocV, bringing you real talk with global thought leaders to inspire hearts and minds for sustainable breakthroughs and profitability for your life and business. Here's your host, DocV.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Virginia LeBlanc, also known as DocV, the Pivot Maestro. Welcome to the Define Your Path podcast for those seeking to define their own path into purposed entrepreneurship. This is a show about transforming perspectives, as well as inspiring and motivating you to think without a box by exposing you to global thought leaders, change agents, and legacy builders like my guest today, across industries on how they successfully define their own path in life and business to profitability and sustainable wins. At Defining Paths, we operate in truth, transparency, and love to help you navigate those waters, the waters of your life, and put you back in business. And the Define Your Path podcast is no different. It all starts in the mind. Will you be the captain or the crew is the question. So today's spotlight is with Clarissa Constantine. Clarissa is the founder of Parent Tween Connection and runs the company with her husband, Joe Constantine. She is an entrepreneur with a 20-year career in test prep tutoring, management, and training. During college at the University of Hartford, she began what would turn into a decades-long career as a test prep coach. Clarissa is highly respected, folks, by her students, clients, and colleagues alike for her tenacity and can-do attitude. In addition to test prep coaching and dreaming of the ways Parent-Tween Connection will help families, she's also a certified life coach who helps teens learn concepts like goal setting, self-compassion and self-esteem, mindfulness, and growth mindsets. All phenomenal things that students don't get in the education system. So she's a huge asset. So Clarissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, DocV. I am so excited to be here with you. I love the whole idea of thinking outside the box because really, what box?
Exactly. Girl, I know this is going to be an awesome spotlight. I cannot wait. I've been waiting for this conversation. So we look forward to hearing your story and how you faced your fears to love the skin you're in and pivot into pursuing your passion and soul purpose. And so, folks, I want to remind you, we asked 2 questions in our podcast, and it's all about how have you defined your path and how do you help others define theirs. So let's start with the how you've defined your path, and the spotlight is yours, Clarissa.
Thank you so much. You know, it's one of those situations like they say hindsight's 20/20, right? Mm-hmm. Like I can look back in the rearview mirror and all of the steps that I've taken to get where I am make perfect sense. Mm-hmm. When I was taking those steps, often I was sitting here going, where the heck is this going? And why am I here? And what am I doing?
Exactly.
So oftentimes that definition is way easier to see in retrospect rather than in foresight. So the way I usually tell it, my mom and I struggled. We had a rough navigation, if you will, through my teenage years and through my young adult years and my perhaps not so young adult years. That's part number 1. Part number 2, I was a broke college kid trying to figure out how to get my way through school, making, $4.25 on campus. I know that dates me. But I started, I was constantly hawking the job boards going, how can I make more? How can I make more? Because it was just always a case of like, there always seemed to be months left at the end of the money.
Absolutely.
As a college kid. And so I was always hawking the job boards and found a gig as a test prep coach. And lo and behold, I was like, hey, I'm actually a pretty good tutor. I helped my friends with math in high school. I was like, I can do that. And I had zero concept as I was pursuing a degree in music production, AKA audio engineering.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Had no idea I'd still be doing test prep coaching 24 years later. And, along the way, like I enjoyed it. I'm good at it. I'm well compensated for what I do. But I also recognized I've felt for a long time, there's something more. There was also an aspect that I recognized that I feed into the system of inequity that exists in the college admissions world. Mm-hmm. So, few years ago, friends of ours, mine and my husband's, were navigating some really challenging things with their daughter, who was 15 at the time. Mm-hmm. And the mom said to me, I mean, when I say the mom was terrified that her daughter was going to come home pregnant, in jail, or dead, like I am not being exaggerative in that one iota. Like those were the decisions she was making. It's real. Exactly. Yeah. And the phrase that my girlfriend said to me was, I just wish I had other parents to talk to. And Doc, it was like a light bulb for me. And I was like, this is my something more.
I love it.
And I realized, you know, when somebody births a new child, we have a community around them, and we have in villages for years, right? For millennia, right. There's the village that surrounds the new parents, right, because we understand that they don't know what the heck to do with this new being. But yet somehow as a society, we believe that by the time they've hit 10 or 12 years old, mom and dad like know all the things.
Yes. Preach.
And the reality is that they don't know any more about what to do with this like holy adolescent being that seemingly has been taken over by aliens. Right?
Yes.
And they're like, what do I do with this thing? Like, where did this insolence and the disrespect and the what's up, bro? Like, I'm not bro. I am your mother.
Yes.
You know, like, where did this come from? But at the same time, the kids are individuating, which is developmentally appropriate.
Yes.
But the decisions that they're making in the process also carry so much more gravity. Mm-hmm. You know, one session of unprotected sex can result in life or death consequences.
Yes.
One decision of driving while under the influence can have immediate life and death consequences. You know, we're not talking, and I don't mean to be disrespectful of the challenges parents face with younger ones, you know, potty training, latching, breastfeeding, those are important. They don't typically carry the same gravitas, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Yes.
And so that's literally like, I realized this is my something more. The name was a divine download. You know, when it comes to defining my path, like once that lightning bolt struck and I kind of worked through the initial phases of what do I do with this? I've been navigating on intuition and my spirituality, you know, and what I believe, pardon me, my version of God, if you will, and listening to my, as I call it, my higher self, my intuition, and going, okay, this is the next best step. I don't have a business plan. I never will, because that's going to lock me into a box. What box? I'm not going to operate on a box.
Yes. Speak.
So, you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And you know, my husband is a youth mentor and certified life coach as well. So we both work with kids. We don't have children of our own. And people are like, how did you land here? And we were like, we were both teenagers.
Yes.
And I think because we both still work with teenagers, we remember more than many what it's like to be a teenager, you know, and our kids talk to us about the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, you know, I'm gay, but my parents are very devout in their belief system, in which anything outside of heteronormativity is a sin. How do I talk to my parents? And we're like, that's a really good question. You know, so the whole point behind Parent-Tween Connection is to create community and support parents, support the village, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, and connect them to the professionals who can help them navigate life with teenagers. You know, I look back, you know, my mom's been gone 3 years now, and I look back to our time. I never questioned DocV that my mother loved me. I never questioned that she wanted what was best for me. I believe she couldn't live in a space because of her own experiences of truth, transparency, and love, as you espouse. And, you know, I was a kid. What the heck did I know about navigating in authenticity? Right. You know, I believe she did the best that she knew with the best that she could with what she knew. I did the best that I could with what I knew, you know, and Maya Angelou said, do the best that you can until you know better, then do better.
Girl, that's one of my favorites.
Maya Angelou, like, I bow to her writing. She is amazing. But, you know, I actually put my own twist on that, because I'm, as much as I can be, I'm a proponent of non-judgment. And even saying better implies judgment, you know? And so, like, my take on that is do what you know until you know differently, then try something different.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so I'm sitting over here with cold chills right now because I got to jump in here somewhere. I love the way your mind works, how, your values and just, what you espouse, because it's so important. And I love the fact your business is the very definition of thinking without a box, and what you've shared of like how, so many people think, oh, because you don't have children, you don't know what you're talking about. Hello, I'm an adult. I went through that stage, or they try to get defensive because we're so programmed and conditioned to think a certain way, or this was a certain path. And if you've not walked this, then you couldn't possibly understand, or that sort of thing. So I love how you and your husband are just combating, those stereotypes or those thought processes and those boundaries, those chains, honestly, because they're chains that bind us,
Absolutely, they are.
Also, you talk about how you don't like or how you don't espouse judgment. Girl, kindred spirit right here, right? Because I was raised, in Christian, and I've grown up with certain thoughts and values, and life has taught me so much. And, and my divine power, for me, God, source, for whomever, whatever, has just given me so much insight. So I love what you're doing. And so I really want to ask, how do you maintain your value set based on your foundation and working with, how do people receive that? Do you find that people open up more, or when they first come to you, are they, is there more kind of a wall, so to speak, or, do you find that helps your success? Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of both. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of folks still fall into the same patterns that I know my mom believed of. I'm the adult, you're the child. Mama knows best.
Yes.
I'm the adult. I have more experience. You need to listen to me. Mm-hmm. And I think there's certainly absolutely something to be said for, like, we have life experience. My best friend right now is, so as we're recording this, it's a few days before Thanksgiving. Her 13-year-old son is making pies to raise money for a trip that he wants to take. So she was like, we are going to limit you to 10 pies. And he's going through the process of learning how to make more than one pie at a time, right? And so there's the intellectual, like, executive functioning aspect of, let me help you learn to make more than one at a time that we can help them with. So yes, there absolutely are aspects where, we know more than they do and we can help, whether they want to listen to us or not. But I think we really, as the adults, we need to stop and recognize that our kids know a lot more than we give them credit for. And if we look at them as human beings in and of themselves and honor the fact that they do have innate knowledge, and they're going to know themselves better than we do. We know them well, but they will ultimately know themselves better than we will ever know. And if we honor that, and I think there's an aspect as adults that, and not even as adults, just as humans in our society, that we're not allowed to be wrong.
Yes.
We can't make mistakes. And we can't be vulnerable. And this is where I'm going to go all Brene Brown on us. Another, like, Maya Angelou and Brene Brown are like the goddesses in my world. Brene Brown talks so much about, like, vulnerability is the key to connection.
Yes.
And if we can look at the kids in our worlds and go, look, we don't know everything. And we allow them to see us as fallible. I think that creates stronger connection. But so many adults, and I'm going to say parents, because that's largely who we end up supporting, have this feeling of, like, I'm supposed to have it all figured out, and taking down that wall of, but I'm supposed to have it all figured out, and acknowledging I don't, help me adjust. And then I think the next step, I know you and I could talk about this all day long, that we cannot control another being. We can only control ourselves and how we show up in a situation. So whether we're talking your partner, he pissed me off, blah, 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 blah. Or like, my child is such a bleep, like insert choice of word here. Yeah, maybe they are. But here's the thing. Let me actually challenge you. Is it that they are a bleep or that they are behaving like a bleep? There's a difference there. And I think sometimes we get so close to it with the people that we're closest to that we lose that distinction. Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question, but there we go.
No, I mean, you answered it and then some, because and we'll get here in a second to, how you help others define their path. But it sounds like, that's your secret sauce. One, you being vulnerable and sharing your personal story, because so many people would try to hide the fact that they had, issues or trauma or, growing up, or, they would just keep that knowledge to themselves, And it sounds like that's the key to also how you connect with your tweens and your parent connection. So can we talk a little bit more about that? And, for some people who might come to you, is there a difference between, people who have biological children and adopted children or various backgrounds? Let's just dive into who you serve, how you serve them, the things you kind of encounter within that.
Sure. So really, we serve all of the members of the village. Okay. So biological parents, foster parents, adoptive parents, step parents, grandparents, honorary parents, bonus parents, and the people who support them. So on one side in the parent-tween village, we have connection calls where we talk about what I call the foundations of connection, which I know we're going to talk about ways to find later or to connect with parent-tween connection. But, foundations of connection, it's a free download on our website. And each month we talk about a different foundation. So like whether it's observing beyond the five senses, or non-judgment, or nod and smile, like giving parents insight, especially with teenagers. They don't want our advice. And to be fair, giving them our advice straight away disempowers them and takes away the opportunity for them to learn to process and come up with solutions on their own. So in our conversation about nod and smile, one of the pieces that I offer to folks is ask a question and then zip it for 30 seconds, count to 30 and let them respond. So we're talking, and those are foundations that apply in any kind of relationship. It can, if you're newly engaged and still figuring out this like living together thing, maybe, or, you have a new boss at work or a new employee, whatever the case is, give them a chance to respond to you is good advice no matter what, as opposed to just jumping in and derailing the conversation. Yeah. But then we also, again, to the point of being a village, in a traditional village, whether we're thinking, a Native American or an Aboriginal village, you've got the family, but you've also got the shaman and you've got the medicine doctor and the next level of support. We've also got community for the professionals who can support the families. So we've got, we're bringing in parenting coaches, teen life coaches. And really, it's not so much about me specifically helping someone else define their personal path, but going, look, if you're struggling with something, here are the kinds of resources that exist. Again, back to that point of vulnerability, like it's okay to not know. It's okay to ask for help. Absolutely. And this is, it's a movement. And when we talk mental health in our country, frankly, around the world, we're so shamed for acknowledging that we have mental health challenges and that we're getting help. Like, thank God we're finally starting to be like, oh, I went to my therapist today. And it's not like you're not shunned or kicked out of the village for it, And so it's not just about saying, hey, it's okay to ask for help, but then ushering in the support in terms of the professionals who can help the teens and the tweens and the families. So it's connecting the pieces for them and giving them a safe space, holding that space for them to acknowledge that they need help, and then going, okay, here's the kinds of help we can offer.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's just so much here. I want to give you the opportunity to share any words or thoughts of wisdom, but I really also want to just talk about, if you could give us some experience, some examples of experiences that you've had, maybe some of the major challenges or maybe the common challenges that you run into with your in these relationships, for our listeners out there who might, be thinking, I need to really reach out to Clarissa.
Oh man, it's
Mm-hmm.
there are so many that are so common.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the one piece of advice that I would offer to adults who are supporting teens, whether you're the parent, you're the aunt, the uncle, the mentor, I'm the auntie in some cases, with my friends' kids. Actually, two pieces. Number one, we are the adults. We are the ones who have the fully formed frontal lobes, which, by the way, those aren't actually fully formed until you're like 25. So if your kid is 15, please know you've got 10 more years. I don't mean to be like good luck, but good luck. We're the adults. We have to act like it. Mm-hmm. And if you recognize that you are getting triggered by something, find the help. Whether it's a therapist, a coach, whatever, in a house of worship, if that's a safe place for you, get the help to act like the adult if you're recognizing that you're not acting like the adult. Because you know what? As I was talking to a parent today, he's like, my 8-year-old, he's a caveman emotionally. He's not wrong. But you know what, Dad? You're in your 40s or 50s. You are no longer a caveman. Yeah. And if you are, we can get you help to not be so caveman-ish, right? Yes. So number one, we're the adults. We have to act like it. Number two, if you think your kids aren't having conversations about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, please reconsider. It is not about a question of whether they are having the conversations. The question is whether we as the adults are part of the conversations.
Wow.
So that ties back into we're the adults. We need to take the initiative to have these conversations with our kids. Kids are talking about things way earlier than we realize. They're talking about sex. They're talking about pornography. They're talking about drugs. They're talking about alcohol. They're talking about all kinds of things. They're talking about mental health. They're talking about suicide way younger than you think they are. So it is not inappropriate to start having age-appropriate conversations with them at 6, 7, 8 years old. We've got kids at 9 and 10 years old talking suicide. And if that is horrifying, good. It is. Like, if you find that that's horrifying, it should be. And so we have to open these conversations with our kids younger.
Yes. Yeah, because those were two excellent, brilliant points, and if we think about it, the kids are watching television at a young age. They're out of the house going to, pre-K and so on and so forth. And, everybody's household is different. So they're having these different experiences. They're having conversations in school. So whereas you want to protect them, or you think you're protecting them about, not speaking about certain things or thinking, convincing yourself that they're not. Really, we're feeding into that vehicle that is conditioning and programming, the social cultural conditioning and programming. And so I think what you're doing is phenomenal. And, truly just absolute, the two examples you just gave, divine downloads, because I was just sitting here processing, of course, I have tons of God's children. And, and right now, one of them is going through a hard time, in experiencing exposures to little boys. So it's important, that the village is a part of the conversation, and the village understands, and we're not just leaving it to the parent, because, parents can try their best, but, they're not with the children most of the time if they're working. So,
And it's appropriate for the kids to not want to be talking to mom and dad in this age range. And it is hard. Oh, it is hard. Please, moms and dads, no, this does not mean that you are a failure. It is natural.
Yes.
If they are going other places, what that actually more than likely means is that you have set a solid foundation for them to start trying out their wings.
Wow.
But that again is a reason that you need to have that village around you.
Yes.
And you're not alone. I think that's probably the last point that I would want to wrap up with is if your kid got arrested for having pot in their bag, I promise you, you are not the first parent whose kid got arrested. You will not be the last parent whose kid got arrested, but nobody talks about it. And I'm not saying that you have to, but I am saying, please know that you're not the only one. It's just that nobody's talking about it, because there's so much shame. So many parents have this idea. My mom straight up said to me when I was a kid, don't you forget your actions reflect upon your family.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Here's the thing. You can be the best parent in the world. You could have done everything right, and your kid is still going to be a kid. Your kid is still going to test boundaries. Your kid is still going to test authority. Your kid is still going to make mistakes. And you are going to look at them and go, what the ever loving?
Yeah.
And it's okay. You know what I mean? Like there's so much shame around it. I think especially for women, because we are still a maternal society in terms of our social communities and the raising of children. We are still the default parents. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means your kid's a kid.
Right. And I would like to ask this one last point, girl, because we can keep going on and on. I'm loving this conversation. So the importance, it sounds like based on what you're saying, it's profoundly important that you allow your child to spread their wings, a little bit, but give them the safety net or, the guide rails, or so to speak, mm-hmm. in being a part of like the parent-tween connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's exactly what we try to support parents with is knowing that it's okay, figuring out where those boundaries are, because there's no single concept that works for every child because every child is different. But, supporting the parents and again, knowing you're not alone, finding new ways to connect with kids. You mentioned godchildren. Yeah. If you're ever out, great ways to connect with them, like be side to side, don't be face to face, because from a primitive perspective, if we're face to face, it feels very confrontational. Mm-hmm. But if we're side to side, it's more like an us versus the world idea, so it's like just sharing snippets like that along the way and being in community of like, hey, what are ways that we can have stronger connections with our kids and give them that space so that when they do fall, we are among the resources that they fall back to, because they're going to fall. Newsflash. We all do.
We're human beings.
Exactly. So.
Oh, I love it. I love the work you're doing, Clarissa. Oh my gosh, I'll have to wrap this up. But I think it's just wonderful and how you are changing, and I would probably say literally saving lives and relationships. So bravo.
Thank you. And yes, that is the goal.
Awesome. Yes. So thank you for being our spotlight today. Any other thing or thoughts that you want to say?
No, just thank you for having me. And, folks can find us online at Parent Tween Connection. It's PARENTWEEN connection.com. We primarily support families with kids between the ages of 10 and 20, but we definitely have some folks who are there with, whose kids are younger and they're like, hey, we are watching and we are learning, because it's not like things magically change when, they hit double digits. A lot of these foundations are laid earlier. And if you go to our website, you can find us on all of our social media, join our Facebook group, join the village.
Excellent. Folks, connect with Clarissa and her organization, Parent Tween Connection. You want to check them out. I tell you, I absolutely love this session, and this is what we're all about. So first of all, I do want to remind folks that they can also read your full bio and connect with you on our Defining Paths podcast platform. We'll have connections there. And this was a phenomenal episode. I keep having thoughts and this is like, I need to wrap. Folks, be sure to visit our virtual home to see what we're up to at definingpaths.online. It's a great deal. Check out our partner network. I'd love to thank Business Innovators Radio Network and our producer, Mike Saunders, for their amazing support and assurance that we can continue to bring you quality, life-giving, and inspiring conversations like this one with Mrs. Clarissa Constantine. I'm Doc V. I'm getting tongue twisted over here because this episode has blown my mind. I'm Doc V, the Pivot Maestro, and always your corner woman. Be true to you and define your path so that you may be your own boss in mind, body, soul, and business. We'll see you on our next episode. Clarissa, thank you for being here, girl. You're going to have to come back.
Thank you so much, Doc V.
You've been listening to Define Your Path with Doc V. To learn how to see with true vision and define your path, visit definingpaths.online/true-vision.